What's up, YouTube, and welcome to the latest episode of The Layup.Line. If you're new to this channel, I post NBA content at least twice a week, and I update these power rankings twice a month. So if you're a fan of the NBA, this is definitely the place for you, so make sure you subscribe. You can also find me on most social media platforms where I drop sneak peeks at upcoming videos, and I do live tweets for most of the games I watch. But that's it on this intro. As usual, I got a few teams to discuss, so let's get into these power rankings.
You know what time it is? It's about to be that time.
AP, they said I gotta come off the bench.
Sensations thinking they know the game of basketball, they would then have to admit that they don't know basketball.
So if you're new to this channel and haven't seen one of my power rankings videos before, what I do is I let the rankings appear on screen so you can get a sense of my evaluation for each team and the season that they're having and their current momentum. But for the sake of time, I actually only focus on 3 teams with various ranges in my rankings. I have been attempting to branch out and touch on a few teams that I've yet to discuss in power rankings or other videos, but I'm going to be starting with the Sacramento Kings today. Sacramento very easily could have been the 30th ranked team, considering that they only recently snapped a 9-game losing streak, and then they followed that up with an embarrassing loss to the Charlotte Hornets that included 6 missed free throws in the last few minutes of the game. I'm pretty confident in saying that this will be Luke Walton's last year as head coach. During the preseason, I predicted he was the most likely coach to lose his job this season, and Luke might be a good coach. Luke Walton was the interim head coach for the season where Golden State won 73 games, and he was the interim for about half of the year. But since leaving Golden State, Luke has had a losing record every season of his career as a coach. Now, there are certainly roster issues causing the Kings to lose games, but I'm also confident that the Kings would have a better record if they had a better coach. The Kings own the largest playoff drought in the league, and I don't see that ending this year. In my opinion, they're better off trading their veterans away for draft assets or young players that better fit around their centerpiece guards in Fox and Halliburton. I recently dropped a video doing a trade machine explaining why I think it makes sense to move Marvin Bagley. Sacramento is a mess, which is why the front office needs to capitalize on what's expected to be a loaded draft class. I'm sure Kings fans are tired of thinking about the draft lottery and they just want a playoff appearance, but the way I see things in a shortened season that has more teams being buyers than sellers, Sacramento pivoting towards the draft lottery would allow them to actually trade their veterans at a higher value, and they'd also get worse and firmly establish themselves with top 3 lottery odds. A good week or 2 this season can put them back in the playoff hunt. I mean, let's look at the Wizards, for example, who are now hovering in play-in range, and that's a possible path for the Kings, but I just don't think it makes sense in the long term. Really looked for an optimistic note to end this on, but all I can think to say is that at least De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Halliburton are really good, and they play well together, and fingers crossed that the next coach isn't as bad. Moving on to the Boston Celtics, however, they have been on a downward trend as well, and are falling short of preseason expectations. Like most teams, this season has been impacted by injury, health and safety protocol, and Jason Tatum has even had a positive test. Now, I've stressed all season that we should be lowering expectations for players coming back from positive tests because the virus can affect them in a range of different ways, and Tatum has also been open about the struggles that he has had returning, getting back his breathing and getting his endurance. So combined with the Marcus Smart injury, there are reasons to temper the responses on the recent losses. On the other hand, the struggles highlight greater offensive issues that the front office will need to address. Going into the year, I wasn't a big believer in this version of the Celtics. They don't have great depth, and that's because of the amount of talent that has been walking out or traded. When you lose the likes of Kyrie Irving, Terry Rozier, Marcus Morris, Al Horford, and Gordon Hayward, but you only replace them with an admittedly good but injured Kemba Walker and a bunch of first or second year players. There's Tristan Thompson and Jeff Teague. A 500 record is only mildly surprising at that point. The basketball reasons for the Celtics struggle, well, the offense has gotten stagnant, and this isn't something that I think is the players' fault necessarily, and there's some heat that should be going towards head coach Brad Stevens. Early in Brad's career, it felt like he had a big reputation as a motion offense guy. The Celtics made extra passes, and they were pretty unpredictable down the stretch of close games. Stevens is no longer running enough actions to get the other guys involved. The role players are still getting spot up threes in the wings in the corner off of Kemba or the 2Js driving, but this year's role players are worse shooters, and it also feels like the Celtics players spend a lot more time standing around when they don't have the ball. Tatum and Brown are fantastic young players. I mean, they're both all-stars this year despite the team's poor record, but they're also going to need someone that will be focused on getting the other guys shots. This is where Gordon Hayward was so good. Hayward was a near 20-point scorer and above average playmaker, and he wasn't always available to the Celtics, and they were still playing fine without him. But over the course of an entire season, you can't just replace that guy with nothing. Boston is currently in the bottom 3 of the league in assists per game. They also range between top 5 and 10 on the percentage of their shots coming from the mid-range. Celtics are also taking the 4th fewest shots from 0 to 3 feet. That stat is not an indictment on any one player, but the team as a whole, and they can be moving the ball a lot better and attacking the rim. The team's 3 best offensive players all have a decent volume of their scoring coming from the mid-range. And that isn't bad in itself, but more times than not, that's going to be the shot that the defense wants to give up. And you make it harder on yourself to draw contact and get to the line when most of your shots end in a pull-up or a fadeaway. The Celtics are missing their best passer and defender in Marcus Smart, and he does resolve some of these problems, but unless the C's land some additional depth, I'm not really betting on any recent returns to the Eastern Conference Finals in their future. Moving on to the last team I want to discuss today, we have the Phoenix Suns. I actually talked about Phoenix in a video I did on teams that were off to a hot start, and Phoenix was a team that I had some doubts about. The Thunder had traded Chris Paul after his healthiest season in about 3 to 5 years, and there was no guarantee CP3 would remain available. I also didn't think that the Suns' good defense would actually be sustainable, and I'm here to say that I was dead wrong about both of those things. Chris Paul has missed just one of the Suns' 33 games, and they're still a top 10 defensive rating team. This is where I have to shout out DeAndre Ayton, because center is one of the most important spots on the court to have a good defender. In general, most teams as a base defense will run drop coverage to keep their big guys around the rim as a protector. Ayton has been better positionally when asked to drop, and I'm seeing some improvement from him as well when he's asked to guard higher up in space. I'm not exactly sold on Ayton in the Suns defense, to keep it honest, but they do have a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense. Now, their offensive and defensive profile match up with what we historically see from title contenders. You're going to be needing to have a dynamic top 10 offense and a versatile top 10 defense. I still don't think the Suns are a versatile defense on that end. Phoenix is middle of the pack as far as their opponents' shooting numbers from 0 to 3 and from 3 to 10, but they are a top 3-point defending team because of their wings that can chase guys off the line and limit their attempts and percentages. They also finish defensive possessions with the rebounds and do a good job of limiting second chances for their opponents. They're good at not beating themselves as well because they don't turn it over a lot and they force turnovers on the other end. I want to stress that I am still very impressed with what the Suns have been able to do, and I want to give them credit for the jump that we've seen. However, because of their statistical profile, I've seen a lot of people go as far as saying that they're contenders this year, and I do believe that they could be a dark horse to make the Western Conference Finals. I just can't go as far as saying that they can contend when playoff teams will just force Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton to match up in pick and roll in order to either attack Ayton in space or get mismatches on CP that they can take advantage of. But those are just my opinions. Leave a like if you learned something new, if you like what I do. I post NBA related content at least twice a week, and I do these updated power rankings twice a month. Comment down below and let me know what you thought about your team's rankings and what teams that I should be looking into for the mid-month update. Don't forget to follow me on social media and subscribe to this channel. Thank you for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.